A couple of years ago I made a video about Mousehold Heath. In it I referred briefly to Robert Kett and said he deserved a video of his own. The time has finally come. Robert Kett was a farmer from the town of Wymondham in the 16th century. It was a time when sheep farming had become hugely profitable, and as a result the wealthier landowners began enclosing parts of the common land for their flocks, leaving the poor to starve. The peasants responded by tearing down the fences and visited Kett with the intention of doing the same to his enclosures. To their astonishment, Kett agreed with them and helped them in destroying his own fences and hedges. The year was 1549. Kett was an educated man and soon became their leader. The discontents assembled beneath an oak tree, subsequently known as Kett's Oak, to begin a protest march to Norwich. They made Mousehold Heath their base for some 16,000 supporters, centring upon the area we now know as Kett's Heights. It was here that Robert Kett and his fellow leaders, including his brother William, drew up their list of demands which centred on the wealthy barons giving back the common lands to the poor and allowing them to live as before. The government of King Edward VI initially took a conciliatory approach, offering pardons if the rebels dispersed. Look at the 2023 view and try to imagine it in 1549. The river, the cathedral, the castle and the whole city laid out before Kett. It was from here that they charged down from Mousehold and began swimming the Wensum near the Cow Tower to get into the city. The government was shocked that the rebels had taken England's second largest city. Armies were assembled to confront the rebels. The first attempt to beat Kett's rebels failed and Lord Sheffield was killed. His ghost reputedly haunts the nearby Adam and Eve pub. Finally, the rebels were defeated at a place called Dussindale, which may have been north of Norwich, around where Waterloo Park is now located, rather than what we now know as Dussindale. 3,000 rebels were killed, and the following day Kett was arrested. On the 7th of December 1549, Kett was hanged from the battlements of Norwich Castle. His brother William was executed at Wymondham Abbey, with this view stated as the last thing he saw. Kett's Heights is now an open space, steeply wooded and containing the remains of a medieval chapel used as Kett's base. Following transfer to the City Council, there was substantial restoration work in the 1980s, and the area is now maintained by volunteers who have established, for example, this herb garden in the old priory. Let's head back to the city street which bears Robert Kett's name, Kett's Hill, and turn right at the gate at the bottom and start at the top of Kett's Hill. Looking across the top of Kett's Hill into Britannia Road looks like this in 2023. In 1962 this corner was the site of St Leonard's Church, built in 1907 and closed in 1981. This is the current view looking down Kett's Hill, compared with a much earlier view with a poor horse struggling to get up or maybe down, it's difficult to tell. Heading off on the left at this point was once Camp Road, slightly to the east of St Leonard's Road, highlighting the existence of Kett's Camp in the area. Camp Grove continues to recall the historic use of the area, and Kelly's Directory of 1900 refers to Wolf Road as being previously known as Kett's Camp Road. Back on Kett's Hill, this is the 2023 view of some new housing, built since early 2022 when I took this photo. Back in 1962 these prefabs occupied this location. The ruins of the old chapel on Kett's Heights were used during the rebellion as headquarters and became known as Kett's Castle. This public house, once Kett's Tavern, later adopted the name Kett's Castle and is seen here in 1997, closing in 2015. This is the 2023 view. Next door, further up the hill, was the Ostrich Inn until its closure in 1939. This is the 2023 view from the roundabout at the bottom of Kett's Hill. If you think that this earlier undated photo, probably from the early 20th century, the roundabout is further up the hill, that's because it was a different road layout in those days, as seen in green on this map, with Kett's Hill to the right, the current roundabout site in yellow, was the vicarage of St James's Church and is seen here in 2023 with obligatory abandoned scooter in the foreground. At the bottom of Kett's Hill, actually in Spitalfields, is the Castle Pub, dating from 1830. This picture dates from 1986. In the centuries since his death, Kett has been transformed from traitor into hero, with his name being recalled not just in the area of his camp but also in Wyndham, with a street and behind it a school, care home and pub, all named after him, and he also features on the town sign. His brother William has a street in Norwich immediately below Kett's Heights, named after him. Also in Norwich, on the doors of City Hall, the hanging of Robert Kett is depicted. I have read that the Kett family line continues in Norfolk, and if you can trace your ancestry back to Robert or William, please let me know in the comments.